Welcome back to The Lead. Just days after President Obama's first inauguration, he made a pledge to extend a hand of friendship to the broader Arab world and usher in a new era of cooperation. Listen to what he said in an interview with the Arab TV network Al Arabiya.
If we are looking at the region as a whole and communicating a message to the Arab world and the Muslim world that we are ready to initiate a new partnership based on mutual respect and mutual interest, then I think that we can make significant progress.
4 years later, all hell seems to be breaking loose in Syria, and it seems the countless threats from the administration about crossing red lines and possible strikes and maybe interventions just don't appear to have much clout. In fact, a member of Syria's opposition national coalition was quoted in the New York Times as calling President Obama a, quote, weak president who cannot make the right decision when it comes to such an urgent crisis. Joining me now is Hisham Melhem, Washington bureau chief of Al Arabiya Television. He conducted that interview with President Obama about Mideast relations back in 2009. In fact, I believe that was the very first TV interview President Obama gave. I was very jealous as a White House correspondent at the time. I forgive you. It's okay. Are you surprised in any way by what appears to be the president's waning influence in the Arab world for a president who gave you the first interview and went to Cairo and gave that speech and made such a big deal out of wanting to extend a hand to the Arab world?
Right now, I'm not surprised. I was surprised earlier because the president seemed to many people in the region turning his back on the region after that famous Cairo speech in which he had these lofty goals for a good relationship between the United States and the Arab and the Muslim world, because he failed to stop the Israeli settlements because he did not stand up to the Iranian threat to the region, and because he dumped Mubarak immediately. But then you had Syria. So the leadership style of Barack Obama is not appreciated, to put it bluntly, by those friendly Arab countries towards the United States. And they say the president does not create fear in the hearts of his adversaries and enemies in the region, Iranians and the Syrians and others.
What's the response since Saturday when he made the, I thought, somewhat surprising announcement that he was going to seek congressional approval? How did leaders in the Middle East, how did allies take that?
The Gulf Arabs are frustrated and angry privately.
Saudi Arabia, UAE,
and
Qatar.
Kuwait and Jordan, and not to mention the Turks who are not Arabs but in the neighborhood. They feel the same way, that the president let them down, that the president is conducting a foreign policy with a great deal of indecisiveness. And they are baffled. They are puzzled. They don't know how to explain it. And they tell you that what's left of America's stature and what's left of the president's credibility is in tatters right now. And on the other hand, you see the Syrians, Hezbollah, Iran gloating. I mean, there was a headline in the pro-Syrian media in Lebanon. This is a victory for the axis of resistance, which is euphemism for Hezbollah, Iran, and Syria. So are gloating. They're even daring the president to attack, and declaring that the United States now is in historic state of retreat. This is again because the president did not engage the situation in Syria. He ignored it. He doesn't even talk about Egypt publicly. He subcontracted Iraq to Joe Biden. If there's a massacre in Iraq, Joe Biden picks up the phone and talks to Maliki and talks to Masoud Barzani and all that. The president is disengaged when it comes to these major issues. And in the eyes of the leaders of the region and everywhere in the world, if the president is not involved when there is something at the magnitude of Syria, the use of chemical weapons, then there is something wrong with foreign policy.
Let's reach back to that interview you did with President Obama, the very first TV interview he granted back in January 2009.
Ultimately, people are going to judge me not by my words, but by my actions and my administration's actions.
Now, his presidency is not over. He still could take action in Syria. Whether that's a good or a bad decision is not for me to say. But as of right now, how is he judged by Arab allies in the Middle East?
Wobbly, indecisive, not strong enough. Really, this is the weakness of his style of leadership. He doesn't engage them, he doesn't talk to them, as I said, and he doesn't address these issues in the region. I mean, look at Egypt in the last few weeks and months. Now, the new regime in Egypt, call it a coup or whatever, they are very unfriendly, and in fact, they are opposing any kind of attack on Syria. And he's losing the faith of the leadership in the Gulf. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are trying to take matters on their own. They promised the United States that they will help in any military attack.
And Turkey UAE and Saudi Arabia, and there might be some other countries.
Exactly. They may not talk about it. This is the style of the Arabs too, and I blame them because they should also take a lead because it's their region
right.
and it's their people and their future too. But at the same time, they say we need American leadership. Everybody's crying out for American leadership, the Turks, the Arabs, and the Europeans. And given the weaknesses of the European, given the vote in the British Parliament, given the fact that NATO ally Turkey is unable to lead, everybody's looking for the United States to lead, and there was no leadership. The United States was AWOL.
Hisham Melhem, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming in.